This is All India Radio. In the program Spotlight now, we bring you a discussion on fifth phase of assembly elections in West Bengal. The participants are K.S. Satchidanand Murthy, political analyst, and Ashwini Srivastava, journalist.
Fifth phase of polling is scheduled to be held in 45 constituencies of West Bengal tomorrow, that is Saturday, and as many as 342 candidates are in fray for this election. Murthy sir, would you just give us an overview of this assembly election in West Bengal and why it is so much important in country's politics?
West Bengal is the largest state assembly. But here the fight is not just because it is the largest thing, because of the peculiar nature of Bengal politics. The Bharatiya Janata Party, which is ruling the country, and several big states wants to ensure its dominance in West Bengal, and it has put everything, every resource it has from the Prime Minister downwards to wrest this from Trinamool Congress. And Mamata Banerjee, among the regional leaders, is the most fiery, most controversial, most emotional leader. So she is making it a cause of Bengal versus non-Bengal. So that's why it is there. And then we have the third front of the left and the Congress, unusual combination, which is trying survival in Bengal. The CPM, which ruled along with other left parties for more than 3 decades, is finding itself irrelevant electorally in Bengal. So there are so many reasons for this, and also there's been a huge shift in Bengal voting pattern between the last assembly election of 2016, then in the 2019 Lok Sabha elections, when BJP improved not only its vote tally but domination in number of assembly constituencies compared to what it had. So it's been a rapid rise of the BJP. The BJP thinks the gateway to the east, because if you look at the eastern coast of India, the BJP does not rule any state on the eastern seaboard, whether it is Bengal, Odisha, or Andhra Pradesh or Tamil Nadu. So this will be the entry to the east coast. But then a victory for Mamata Banerjee means federalism, regional forces will still be strong, that we can look for a return to coalition politics one day or other in the coming years.
Sir, before we discuss the main issue based on which these political parties are contesting this high voltage election, there is one very pertinent question on each and every individual's mind, that what was the need to hold this election in so many phases at a time when country is facing this unprecedented and terrible upsurge of COVID cases across the country? Could they have not been clubbed as demanded by Mamata Banerjee herself?
In fact, this is one large issue which has been earlier also as far as elections in northern and eastern states are concerned. Compared to the southern states where, as you note, a large state like Tamil Nadu, which has 234 assembly constituencies, the entire state's polling was done in one day. And it has happened. But over the last several elections, the Election Commission and the Central Security Forces, they feel that to provide enough manpower for the entire state of Bengal or Bihar or Uttar Pradesh or Assam for one-day election is very, very difficult. So the last assembly elections also were done in 7 phases, and that election was won by Mamata Banerjee. So it is that one extra phase has been added. But yes, you are right. In this situation of COVID, could we have gathered more security force? But then the security forces chiefs also said that they cannot spare more forces because of the situation in Jammu and Kashmir and other parts, and there's a backup for the Indian Army, which is confronting China on the northern borders. Pakistan, till the recent ceasefire was ordered. So they had many challenges. They said they could not spare the number of companies, paramilitary forces which were needed to hold one-day election in Bengal.
Right, but now sir, see the challenge which is coming up. The COVID cases, they have crossed 2 lakh mark. I mean, it is worrying. And considering that 8 out of 8 phases of polling, elections of 4 phases is already completed. Only 4 phases are left.
There are legal issues, and also the issue is, the candidates who are going to contesting the 7th and 8th phases, let us say. Now, they also have a legal right for the minimum number of days of campaigning. Now, if we club it, we will postpone the fifth, sixth, and seventh phase to the date of polling for the 8-day polling, and all that. There are a lot of legal issues which the Election Commission yesterday said it cannot at this stage. The Election Commission under Article 324 of the Constitution has the powers to take any steps to ensure free and fair elections, and free and fair also includes safe elections. Because if elections can be postponed, countermanded, preponed due to security issues, due to threat of violence, the threat of a pandemic is also equally a important thing for the Commission to consider. All-party meeting has been held in Bengal today. They also will be factored by the Election Commission when it takes a decision on the next 3 phases of polling.
Right, sir. Sir, these all concerns are raised. I mean, you see that there has been one death of a Congress candidate from one of the constituency in West Bengal. He died on Thursday, and due to he had tested positive for COVID. Now, the worry which many people has is that, sir, that COVID cases are going up, and most of the political leaders, they are spending more time in West Bengal in campaigning. For them, it may be necessary, but people feel that the fight against COVID may take a back seat due to this West Bengal election. How far do you agree with this worry by most of the people?
I entirely agree. This worry is very valid, because when an election is held in India, you mobilize everybody in the government resources, from school teachers, police, revenue personnel, and even medical personnel, because when rallies are held, the ambulances and medical teams are present. When highly protected VVIPs hold rallies like the Prime Minister, Chief Minister, Home Minister, then medical teams which are otherwise required for COVID duty will have to be spared for their safety and ensuring various protocols are there under the security law. So it is fact that the entire civil administration in the state has been diverted for election duty, and it has impacted on the ability to respond to COVID emergency. Unfortunate aspect of ensuring that democratic elections are held every 5 years. But this flip side is also there.
Sir, so what is the way out, in the sense, how can political parties, election commission, state or central authorities check spread of COVID cases now? And are they shouldering their responsibility? Very quickly on this, then we move on to the main issues of the polls.
I think when you allow large gatherings, especially road shows, it becomes a problem. But how do you regulate people? When in a lockdown you can regulate, but when you allow free movement, and also the crowds have a nature of moving together, and you can't have one policeman for one political participant to regulate them. Right. So which means the political parties and leaders have to be sensitized about doing other forms of campaigning online, through phone, through various things, so that very minimum physical contact, the social distancing is maintained. And in this digital age, we have to look at newer methods. Maybe we should have parties told that yes, use the digital and telecommunication methods rather than go for this old kind of this thing. Because and even if there are video addresses, they can be shown on television channels and all that, so that it will reach everybody.
That's a very good suggestion, sir. This digital campaigning, can it be made mandatory? Why can't it be made mandatory for the remaining 4 polls? Is it realistic?
There is no hard and fast rule that, if you remember, we used to have campaigns, meetings running till late into the night. Then the Election Commission said you have to end it at 10 p.m. Then the Election Commission said you have to take permission for motorcycle rallies. Then this time they banned the motorcycle rallies. Campaigning is free and fair, and there is equal opportunity for every candidate and every party. It can be shifted to the digital mode. Our phone penetration, television penetration, and more importantly, radio penetration. Now everybody listens to radio either on the FM or shortwave or medium wave. So there is this penetration already. It is not like 50, 70 years ago, the leaders had to travel from place to place to connect with the voters. Things have changed. India has moved a lot towards the digital connectivity to every village. That's what Digital India is all about.
You referred to multiple polls or frequent polls that keep on happening in this big country. The government of India has been supporting or rather campaigning for the idea of one nation, one election. Do you feel this is the right time to give more fillip to this suggestion?
I think this idea has to be discussed, but then it has to be discussed firstly all the political parties, and then also people have to be educated about this. Do they have the enough bandwidth and maturity to elect their parliamentarian, their assembly representative, and the local municipal councillor? The issues are different at different levels. So I think there's a great deal of popular education needed on these issues, the benefits, the pitfalls, and how do you bring us where it does equity for voters in a small ward and a large Lok Sabha constituency. The local municipal ward or the panchayat may have 5,000 voters, but the parliament will have more than 2 million voters. All those things have to be worked out, but yes, it cannot be enforced. It has to be a very consensual thing. If you have to break the habit of the last 7 decades, then it requires persuasion and consensus.
Coming back to the main topic of elections, sir, I mean the fifth phase of election in West Bengal. Earlier remark, you talked about shift in voting pattern. What exactly are you referring to and how that is being changed, sir?
If we look at the way the 2016 assembly elections were held, the Trinamool Congress, after being in power for 5 years, high on a popularity incumbency wave of Mamata Banerjee, and the Congress, CPM and BJP, in that order, finished second, third, fourth. So that was the kind of dominance that Trinamool Congress had in the elections. But when 3 years later, by then there was these scandals and other things, then the BJP had done its groundwork very strongly, and also the aggression of the Trinamool Congress workers against their political opponents led to a lot of clashes and all that. In addition to that, the Modi wave which engulfed the country. So in 2019, the BJP scored very well. Now, for example, in the seats which went to polls today, in that area, the BJP had more popular vote, 45%, than Trinamool, which got 41%. So when I said the sands have shifted, this is where the popular vote, one is Trinamool lost some vote, but also the votes of the CPM and the Congress, those who are opposed to TMC, shifted to the BJP. So BJP grew both organically and inorganically in Bengal over a period of 3 years, which growth has continued in the last 2 years because of the party's single-minded aggression. Taken a lot of people out of Trinamool Congress. Shivendu Adhikari is the latest of the heavyweights to, along with his father and brother, who are equally big heavyweights in that region. The big shift of the Trinamool leadership base, I don't know about the worker base, but the leader base has shifted also to the BJP.
Sir, is there any pro-incumbency in favor of TMC, or this time do you feel that there is anti-incumbency?
You know, one of the things about an election is which is highly polarized. Even if the vote difference between the two direct opponents, because there's an assessment that the third front of the Congress, CPM and other left parties and the Indian Secular Front is not giving much of a fight in over 200 constituencies out of the 294. So in a direct election, even if the vote share is only 1% difference is there, it can translate into a huge difference in terms of seats, as it had happened to Nitish Kumar in Bihar in 2015 elections. So this is the thing, that vote share may not grow very big, gap may not be very big, and the same calculation. So they are both aggressively campaigning that nobody else matters, so that the voters of the CPM, Congress and other smaller parties have to decide between BJP and Trinamool. This is the result of their aggression.
Thank you so much for talking to us.
Thank you very much.
You were listening to a discussion on fifth phase of assembly elections in West Bengal. The participants were K.S. Satchidanand Murthy, political analyst, and Ashwini Srivastava, journalist. This program was produced and presented by the News Services Division of All India Radio. You can listen to it on our mobile app News on AIR. This program is also available on our website newsonair.com. You may email your opinion about this program at airnsdtalks@gmail.com.